So how many of you have actually seen Kala already? That's good. How many of you are actually planning to see Kala after this? That means there are a lot of Kala fans out here then for sure, right? That's good. So actually I was supposed to be seeing the first show of Kala today in Bangalore, but then my boss, Dr. Gopal Pingali, who's the VP, he was supposed to be here in this conference. And he said that, Lohit, can you go and deliver this presentation? I said that, okay, boss. But then I missed the mind that it was Friday. And he has traveled, and I'm hoping that he is not watching the movie, as I'm here. But nonetheless, I really wanted something good to be compensated for me not watching the first show. And I'm extremely privileged and honored to be on this stage, listening to a lot of esteemed speakers, and in front of such wonderful audience out here, right? I think I can go back to Bangalore and see the late show of Kala then, right? Okay, so as you can see, innovation is something that's been nurturing for me right from the time I joined IBM. And it's my 16th year in IBM, and the time just seems pretty short for me, right? And the reason being the kind of culture that we saw Mr. Shetty ji talking about the culture, the processes, and the diversified technology that IBM had to offer, right? And innovation just kept on pushing on and on. Now, even if I talk about Kala, we know all Talaiva is one of the greatest personality, but he even is challenged by innovation. He has to be innovative. He has to reinvent his skills, the style, to be with the time, right? And so is the truth for any corporate world as well. Any corporate that do not reinvent itself, do not energize its people to be innovative, they will perish, right? So what I want to really do for the next 10 minutes or flat 15 minutes is to just talk to you about the journey of what happened in the last 2 decades, the opportunities, the challenges, and then the innovations that are there from a corporate world, which would be an inspiring aspect, right? So that's how I'll pace my 10, 15 minutes of this session. So if you look at, again, these slides were all just prepared in the last 24 hours, because as I said, it was Gopal who was supposed to present, and then I was told that prepare some slides again. So I just put some slides over there, but the context will be around innovation for sure. So if you look at the last 16 years, 20 years, there has been a fundamental shift in the technology itself, right? Now, the last decade definitely belonged to the traditional way of deploying your applications, building your applications, using the applications. But the customers were at the receiving end, right? Because they had to shell out a lot of money even before they could use it. They had to pay millions of dollars from a licensing cost. And what they got is a monolithic structure where they had to deploy everything on-prem. Their CapEx used to be high, their OpEx used to be high, right? Because of which the innovations were always on the downside. But then in the last 6 years, 7 years, with the advent of cloud, with the advent of the microservices or the service-based solutions, we are seeing a whole paradigm shift in the IT consumption model itself, right? I'm a technical guy. I'm not from a business side, but I'm the guy who writes code, who builds solutions. When you talk about technology, I sit behind the people who actually build that products, right? Now, I've seen this shift that is happening. And over this period of time, we have also seen one interesting aspect. There are like so many startups that have come in the last 5, 6 years, and they've already crossed the $1 billion mark, right? Because they understood the market needs, they figured out the problems, used that as an opportunity, and the technologies that were there, they leveraged on that to show the value, right? That's innovation for me. Then think about those companies who felt for a minute that no, this is just a myth, there is not going to be any changes in the industry, I will stick on to my guns. I will use the same old technologies that I'm doing. What happened to them? They just perished, right? They are non-existing now. Greatest of the greatest companies are non-existing. But then there are these corporates, for example, IBM or Amazon or Microsoft or Google. They realize that there is definitely a change in the trend, And we need to be part of this technology change itself. We need to empower this technology. That's when we came together. For instance, IBM has got close to 3,000 scientists and n number of researchers across 6 continents, right? So we all came together, identified this as a problem. The moment we saw it as a problem, we saw that there is a sense of opportunity. The moment we saw that as a sense of opportunity, we put our innovation hats to drive this technology forward. So that's how innovation plays a very, very important role to ensure whether you're successful or failure. And for me, every problem that is presented, I do not think about solutions. As you can see, I hold close to around 27 or 28 patents and around 13 publications and articles. All of them were because somebody told me a problem. The moment they told me a problem, I did not think about a solution at all. That's the culture in which we are going. We take a step back and see, what is this particular problem about? What innovation can I bring from this? Because if it's a customer problem, that means I need to resolve it. That means there is a scope of innovation. It could be in terms of your product enhancement, it could be in terms of your patents, articles, whatever it could be, right? So innovation exists in all form. And as I said, one of the industry that really benefited from this particular change in technology or in this paradigm shift is the services industry, right? Now, all other industries are impacted because of this and are beneficiary. But service industry, for whatever reason, was one of the biggest beneficiary of this particular change. And the reason was very simple, right? Service industry, for whatever good and bad reasons, they were very ad hoc. Technology was less, and the practitioners and the human-led activities were more. But that means there's a lot of scope of errors, lot of delays, and then any technologies that could help them to energize was benefit. We have seen examples, right? Somebody talked about Uber. Somebody talked about Airbnb. What they did is they just enabled the service providers along with the consumers by being a platform. And that they were able to do it because they saw the problem. They had the technology. All they had to do is build a solution, right? So that's how the service industry became a much more beneficiary of this entire shift of technology itself, right? Now, what IBM as a company, when we talk about corporates, it's not easy as the startups, right? The fail fast, what we are talking about. The fail cheap, what we are talking about, probably is not applicable for the corporate giants because there's a whole lot of employee force, there's a whole lot of technology that we are using, so it becomes difficult to immediately change, right? But then what we identified is we need to be the technology enablers. That's how we started driving the technology so that the startups and other companies can start leveraging that. So the problems and the opportunities, we converted that back into innovation, right? And that's how we are able to sustain our growth. We are able to make a difference from a company growth aspect, all because of the innovations that we are talking about, right? Now, I'll just share some examples of how IBM as a company or a corporate saw the service industry to be a perfect place for innovation, right? Now, as you can see in the slide, the IT service industry every day generates 2.5, the word is what? Quintillion bytes of data. I even don't know what it is, right? Because it connected everybody. We see that everybody are on the mobile. They send data, they receive data, they book some things on the mobile. So data is just flowing everywhere. So what is the first challenge that comes when I talk about so much data being flowing? Any guesses? Sorry? Yes, then? Security, storage, right? Now you're talking about tons and tons and tons of data. How do I even store it? That's where we jumped into providing the way of storing this data in a much simplified manner, in a distributed manner, in a scalable manner that is widely available, right? So that became one of the biggest needs of big data management, right? So we had technologies that supported that big data. So we changed our thought process saying that it's no longer about products, it's about solutions. Let's build the big data solutions. Now, if I have big data, I got tons of data. what is the next important thing that I need from that? What does the data contain? Yeah, so for sharing the data, for what? Sorry?
Synthesizing the data.
Yes, right? One of the core things that data is tons of information. It has got historical information. It has got real-time information. It has got patterns. It has got a whole lot of transactional history in that, right? So the second thing that IBM, once we start getting the data figured out is, I need to do some analytics on that. I need to do some predictive analytics. I need to do some prescriptive analytics. I need to do diagnostic analytics. I need to do some descriptive analytics, right? Look at the way one problem leading to innovation and that innovation leading to something else, right? So we started with identifying the market shift. From that, we went into big data management to enable customers to send data, to store data. From the data that we got, we realized the potential that the data has, so we built solutions that will help you in analytics, but then we did not stop there. We went one step ahead saying that you have got data, I can do analytics, I need to be applying some cognitive thinking into that. I need to learn from this data. I need to have intelligence in my engines that can potentially say what can be done from this. Have a real-time data that comes in. You read from that. Look into the historical data. Apply your cognitive thoughts. Apply the intelligence, and then derive value out of it. So now we are talking about the Watson world that we talked about, which is our core cognitive engine that is becoming one of the need as we step into the next generation of technology itself, right? So this just gives you an example of how you have problems everywhere. But as corporates, as startups, as individuals, we need to identify those problems. We need to identify the opportunities associated with the problems and put our innovation hats in every aspect of it so that we as individuals or corporates are able to sustain and then keep on inventing and reinventing, right? So with that, I just want to spend a few more minutes talking about some of the innovations that are happened on how we observe things from a customer's standpoint of view, right? So Cisco is one such example that I want to share. Now Cisco is not the network Cisco I'm talking about, but they are the big food chain suppliers in the US. And their core value is, I supply fresh ingredients to restaurants. That means they have got just around 6 hours or 4 hours of window time. Then think about the amount of back-end processing that has to happen. They've got 4,000 servers that are running. Now imagine if something goes wrong, if one of the applications goes wrong, right? How do I even figure it out? So earlier, they used to take 19 to 20 hours to recover from any failures. So what IBM did is we stepped into that as a problem statement. We figured out there is an opportunity for us from an innovation standpoint of view, and we created solutions called as dynamic automation. What it does is it goes into each of the systems, identifies the health of the system, collects the data from the system, sends it to the center server. Now I got data. Now I'll do analytics on that. I'll do analysis to figure out how was my historical behavior over there, right? I then build patterns over there, then send it to my cognitive engine. So any failures that are supposed to happen, we predict well in time. We say that this particular server is going to go down because the disk space is running out. So what I do, I trigger an automata which will go and create a virtual disk space. So problem solved. So instead of the 20 hours of downtime, it comes to around 15 minutes or 20 minutes. What it means is that they're better able to serve their customers. They're able to meet the service level agreements, right? And they're able to run their business better, right? So that's one of the example of how analytics help in order to ensure the systems are always up and running. The second example, the second example is on the railways. Now railways, the moment I say, you can think about n number of problems. At least in the Indian subcontinent, we are the largest rail network in the world. but like there are a lot of challenges over there. It could be in terms of train delays or derailment itself, right? So that's where we worked with one of the largest American BNSF railway network. Their challenge was, I should not be having delay in my trains. I don't want to have any derailment in my trains as well, right? So this was a problem statement. So that's where we jumped in, identified this as another opportunity. Again, it's a problem statement. We have a challenge, but technology is the one that we are driving. We combined all together, got in with our IoT devices. IoTs were placed everywhere, thousands of IoTs, collecting information about the engine's capacity, the speed at which it was going, the conditions in which it was happening, the vibrations of the vehicle as it was going, comparing it with the previous data. Again, it comes to the data, right? Historical data analysis, pattern matching that we started doing, and then we started predicting that something is wrong with this particular time as the vehicle is moving. Because you should not have had so much vibrations based on the load and speed. Why is it happening? Is it because the tracks are not that strong? That is an opportunity for us to go and visit. So such is the technology induction into the service domain where we started seeing value more and more. Not to forget about the agriculture aspect before I stop. So agriculture is one of the biggest industry that we are seeing that Watson or analytics or big data is going to help, right? So we have got lots of lands over here for farmers, but believe me, farmers don't know what to grow. They grow, say for example, to be honest, I'm a farmer. We own a lot of lands, but when we grow a lump sum of crops like tomatoes or whatever is it, I don't know what's the capacity that this country needs. I don't know the environment or the climate conditions of it. I don't know how much moisture is required. I don't know which plant is actually having certain problems so that I can go and rectify it, right? So it's all manual based. But imagine when I get all the IoT sensors, the drones, the devices that can take about the moistures in the soil, or how much water is required, how much sprinkling is required. All this data will now help me in order to have a better crops, right? So that's the kind of technology that we are inducing based on the problem statements that are there in and around us. We are not looking at going and looking at from some far off places for problems, but problems that are with us, problems that are next to us, problems that we are facing are the one that we are taking as opportunities, putting our innovation hats, and then coming with solutions that will drive the next generation of events, right? So in essence, for me, in my experience, as a personal experience, innovation has played a vital role, and I believe that that is the success for any corporates to exist or any corporates to succeed as well, even as individuals. Okay? Sorry? Any questions? Oh, thank you. Right? So that's all I had in this limited time to share. So I'll be here. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to take it. Otherwise, have a good conference and a good time to all of you.